Friends, welcome back to another episode of Disruptive with Gabi and Aaron. We are coming to you pre-recorded from the men's therapy studio. And we today have a very interesting topic, but before we get into that, we say hello to my friend and co-host and the tenant of this home, Gabi Koinev. How's it going?
Hey man, Aaron, it's great to be here again to do this finally, and we have multiple cameras.
Multiple cameras.
Yeah, now I'm very excited. This has been like a long time dream of mine, and we're testing the waters with multiple cameras, and I'm very excited.
So if anything suspicious happens,
Yeah.
we'll have a lot of angles. You know, like in sports, you have to review the tape, so we'll have a lot of angles to review if something goes awry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hopefully the setup situation will go faster and it'll go smoothly. So it's a work in progress. And guys, thank you so much for following us.
And we'll find out after this episode if we look good or if we look terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I forgot to do the background lights, the color lights. Should I throw those on?
Oh, what do you think?
Yeah, let's throw them on. Why
Okay.
not? How do we feel about this lighting?
Yeah.
Good? All right. Yes.
So today we are talking about capitalism, and
Okay.
we are discussing that as two people who know very little about history, economics, finance, or history. Did I say history or any
Yeah.
other related subject? So,
Right.
but hey, look, we're just talking. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
free country. We're just having a discussion. Okay, we might say stupid things, but we're just gonna speak our thoughts. Is there a problem with that? Before everyone freaks out.
Right. I personally see no problem with that. I think, this is a theme that's come up in our podcast about like people should just be able to say things with the air of being a non-expert. Like we're non-experts, but we're allowed to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And it's like, there does seem to be a pressure that people feel that they need to be right. And we got to be careful what we put online. And to some extent that's true. But at the same time, like the landscape of the internet is similar to just regular casual social conversation now, where it's just like people say a million things, it gets recorded, like you can't hold everybody to like the most scrupulous standard or whatever based on what you see online,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't. I mean, that's sort of my qualm with podcasts in general is that like I kind of never really want to record myself because I know I'm going to change my mind on things. But why can't people just understand that something someone said was what they said or felt or thought at that time?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, maybe we'll have some smart things to say. Let's see.
100%.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so obviously my opening thoughts are as follows. I would say for most of my life I was staunchly behind everything capitalism, almost to the extreme, like much more so than there is even in the US today. I would say like over the last year I probably walked that back a little bit where like I see a lot of, I feel like I experience and see a lot of the pitfalls of capitalism and just the net negative that it could do to the world. And I think it's still good and it's necessary, but it's not really so simple to me anymore. And one other thing I'll add is that, what I was going to say is that I honestly sometimes don't even really care about if you think it's good, bad, or if another system would be better. It's more of like, I hate lies. That's what I think the thing I hate most in the world is lies and dishonesty, where it's like, what you have now is that there are a lot of companies and industries that need to lie and pretend that they're being altruistic and serving some kind of like good when they're just opportunists. They're just trying to make money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, even though it does rub people the wrong way. But if they would just come out and say that, and not pretend like they're doing some, and I'll give some examples momentarily, but let me pass it over to you. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's such an interesting and rich conversation. And I think piggybacking of what we were talking about last week of just things that we were not taught in school, capitalism, and particularly, I guess, like alternate economic models are not really taught in school so well, because I feel like maybe this is a conspiracy theory in a way, but like there's this idea like if we teach the best sides of socialism, for example, or a different type of economic system, there's this idea that like, well, people might think that that's a better system than capitalism, which is what America is founded on. And so it's very much, I feel, I'm actually not, I have a leaning against socialism based on the fact that like my parents came from a Soviet background and escaped, Soviet background. But just in general, like the thought being that, we're given a very biased angle, and I'm not really 100% sure why that is. part of me is just thinking that like the people who are in charge in America don't want us to learn other theories because it's just like capitalism is the savior and the best thing. And I love capitalism. It's amazing, but it has a lot of downfalls. You know?
Okay, I mean, I would disagree with it being a conspiracy. Right. I would probably just say it's a flaw in education, like we were talking about last week with like a lot of flaws in education.
Right.
So I guess let's back up for a second. To me, this is the way I kind of think about it. This isn't the academic way of presenting it, but this is kind of the way it works in my brain, where there's sort of three different types of economics you can have.
Sure.
You have pure capitalism, which I don't think really any country has, where it is dog eat dog. There's no regulations really other than protecting people's rights. So you can't enslave me. I can't enslave you. I can't, like put a bounty, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't violate someone's rights, but you can do whatever you want in your self-interest. The other, and again, this is obviously an oversimplified version of what actually is, but on the other extreme, you would have socialism / communism where you can't really serve yourself. You're all serving a community. Right. So like in Israel, you have this even on a smaller scale and with a kibbutz. And I don't know how the economics work there per se, but the idea is that no one really makes a salary, but everyone does a responsibility for the kibbutz and everyone takes care of each other like that. And then the third group that I would say is a mix, which is kind of to some degree what you have in the US where you have capitalism, but the government does more than protect people's rights. The government intervenes and is also protecting people from not becoming too powerful and protecting people that have very little power or are disadvantaged.
Right.
Do you have any comments on my paradigm over there?
The thing is, I have so many comments, and I'm also thinking about this from my angle as a therapist, and just recognizing again that like I'm really apolitical, and I think just having this conversation from more of like what am I thinking now as a non-expert. I have read a couple of books on it, but that was a while ago. There's a really fantastic book actually I just want to recommend off the bat. It's called A Little History of Economics. I have it on my shelf somewhere. Very good book. I think it's a little older, but still a fantastic book, just giving an overview of different economists and different economic theories and different countries that have tried different things. So just a really informative kind of like survey of different theories. But again, it's been a while ago since I read that. But I think just some of the falls of a capitalistic system, which we're kind of living in, is like, and again, this isn't necessarily even the fault of capitalism, but this idea of like companies purposely being able to lie and say that something is not dangerous when it really is, like cigarettes, right, and opiates, which was a big issue in pharmaceutical companies, where they purposely misled Americans for a very long time, thinking that, like, for example, opiates with Purdue Pharma, and I don't know, I'm hopefully nobody sues me or anything, but like, they misled the public, making them think it was a lot safer than it was, and doctors were overprescribing it.
How could someone sue you for saying that?
They do. They do. I don't know if Purdue Pharma does perfect. They absolutely sue. Yeah, they sue people for saying
people
stuff.
For what?
For libel, whatever. Like you're slandering our company or whatever. People do get shut down. I don't think anybody's gonna come after us. We're very small, but like
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. To me that doesn't. Something sounds weird.
It happens, dude. It happens. Dude, I'm telling you. Yeah, that's another issue with like this court system. These people have so much money that it's just like, I'm defenseless. I don't have money to hire a lawyer. Certainly not the team of lawyers that a corporation that would want to sue me for slandering. But
you can go on Google and leave a bad review for. I never heard of this company, Purdue. Yeah. You can leave. That's not libel. You're allowed to. You can.
Yeah,
this company
I guess
sucks.
you could leave
money
a bad
hungry
review, yeah.
monster. That's not libel. Okay. Anyway,
people have gotten sued. I'm just saying. I think. I only saw this as a headline. I can't say for certain, but I think it was even like Paramount made a settlement with Trump for $18 million about something, and it's like. Again, this is just like a headline I saw. I don't know, but just talking about like people suing other people for saying stuff like Paramount. Just, I don't know if they were sued by Trump or they sued Trump. I don't exactly know what the situation was, but it's like, yeah, people sue people all the time for libel and stuff. And it's like, that's also another issue where it's just like, the idea of capitalism, the beauty of capitalism is like, it's supposed to be anybody can start a business. Anybody could be innovative and do something to make a lot of money. But the fact of the matter is that you have conglomerates of people with so much money and so much more powerful that as soon as you come up with something somewhat productive that somebody else sees that they want to buy out, they could just do it and shut you down. Technically, you were a capitalistic success. Like I think about John Krasinski. We talked about this 2 weeks ago on the podcast, where it's like John Krasinski created Some Good News. It was bought out and destroyed. Like, is that capitalism at its best? No, it's not. You know what I mean? Like,
in the sense that you don't think it's a good thing, but
it's
that
not a good
is-
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
It's like the idea of capitalism is like, oh, there's a niche in the market, anybody could fill it. It's not really true. It's not really like on some level it's true, but as soon as you become successful enough, you get bought out. You know what I mean? And again, it's your choice not to get bought out.
It is your choice. Yeah.
But it's just like it becomes very tempting, and in theory, like this idea, kind of, I guess the point that I'm getting to, this is very cynical, and I'm kind of mumbling a lot of very large points. It feels very much like the American dream is dead/dying. You know what I mean? And it's not the same as it was. But this is a lot of points, very mumbled.
But what you're saying right now is specific to entrepreneurship.
Right.
You're saying like if you start a business that's successful, eventually you'll get bought out.
You'll probably get bought out.
Right, but A, that's
Yeah.
your choice, and B, there's other
Right.
ways to make money than entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Or there's opportunities in entrepreneurship where you can't really get bought out. Like if you have like an original idea,
To some
you
degree.
know.
Yeah. I mean, you still could. Like, I was describing this, I think, also 2 weeks ago, where I was saying, like, if I do the men's therapy studio and it works out very well and it becomes a brand where, you know, I'm able to speak to young men, because this is obviously a niche in the therapy market right now, young men that are clearly lost, that clearly need therapy, but therapy is not branded to young men. It's not communicated in a way that very often young men resonate with. Now, again, the tide is turning. A lot of young men, despite the branding not necessarily being for them and tailored to them, are turning to therapy because they're recognizing the value in it. And, you know, getting help is something that is so natural. And especially for young men, I think, like, when we look about it, I've always found it very bizarre that it was an issue that young men had a hard time seeking help, especially mental health help.
Yeah.
I've always found it fascinating because any movie in Western culture, like with the hero's journey, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, whatever movie you have, there's always the young hero that's on his journey has the wizard. You know what I mean? And therapists, to a large extent, are like the secular wizards. I've made this analogy like a while ago. We're technically supposed to be the ones that are expert in
But
how
there's
to
a big
live a good
difference
life.
between having a cool friend or mentor than a therapist.
It's a big difference, yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, and listen, a therapist is not going to be your Gandalf. You know what I mean? That's not good therapy, right? But the idea just being like getting somebody to help you in align with your internal values, to help you find the internal strength and resources to get clarity on those values and live your life in alignment with it. Like, that's a concept as old as time that young men have always been, you know, leaning on.
Well, it definitely is. But okay,
Yeah.
so what I'll say about therapy is like I kind of think there was this overcorrection that happened where like for most of human history there was no such thing as therapy. Like deal with your problems, like be a man and stop crying about it. And then we realized that
Even that's not true, by the way.
What?
People went to their shaman. People went to their rabbi. People went to the people that were leaders in the community for guidance. You know, that's always been the thing.
But it wasn't therapy.
It wasn't therapy. Yeah, therapy's new. Therapy's new.
Therapy is new.
Right.
Once that started and we realized that way of life sucked,
Yeah.
I kind of think there was an overcorrection where now it's like everything is mental health, and like if you say the words mental health, like everyone has to like shut up and like respect it. You know what I mean? Whereas like sometimes, like there was one time I had a job where I think at one time like I missed a day,
Right.
or I think I basically needed to give an excuse that I need to quit.
Yeah.
And I said mental health. I said I'm struggling with mental health, and I guess that was true. But the thing is that like I also just did, you know, I'm like, was it like I just hated the job and I didn't want to go to work? Like, is that mental health? Like, I guess it's related, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like now it's like you say the words mental health, and I was like, oh, like you
gotta
know?
respect it.
And it's like
I'm
sometimes
happy that that's true.
Yeah, and I think with men is that like, of course, it's stupid to think that because you're a man, you won't need help. But there is a difference between I've definitely went to therapists who they kind of just talk and like they'll just like listen to you talk and like just talk and talk and talk, and I can't stand that. Like for a couple sessions, like fine, but eventually it's like we have to do something. Some people that is what therapy is, and that's what they want therapy to be. Is just them to talk and cry and vent. And if that's what they want, like if that's what you want, then that's fine. But I can understand why a young man would not want to be associated with that kind of thing because it sounds kind of babyish, you know. I could see how someone would feel that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying completely. I want to, first of all, I want to reflect and say like, I get and I understand that idea. And at the same time, I want to say like this idea of letting somebody talk is so powerful. It's not letting them talk, it's listening, right? And people very often, for whatever reason, don't feel like they have a place where they are heard and seen. And the truth is like, that's how you become aligned with what is internally, going on when you're truly being listened to. You finally let that unravel. And that's like the stream of consciousness, the talking it out and actually having somebody present and listening to that, reflecting, caring, helping you, get to the core without getting distracted is really powerful. And it's like, that's often how progress is made. Like I remember, dude, me being in yeshiva, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences, where like I would talk to a Rebbe about a problem, and then they would just like go off and probably say the same story they told like 8 other guys. And like, they're not actually helping you in many ways. And many times people do get a lot of help from their Rebbe, but it's like, actually listen to my problem. Actually like understand that like I'm different. And I felt like, I don't know, I feel like therapy, especially in having somebody that's able to like truly listen, right, to what you're saying and see your inner part of you and help you bring that out. That's what I feel helps lead to alignment and self-actualization much more so than being told what you need to do. You know what I mean?
I would agree in the sense that more so than being told what to do, but
because this is the kicker, by the way. You already know what you need to do. You don't need to be told. You need to remember and recognize that you actually have those resources within.
I'm just saying, like, I think there was when I was in school, I think it was Fritz Perls.
Maybe, yeah, he's the Gestalt, I believe, right?
Yeah, was he the guy that was kind of mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
He was not mean necessarily, but he was like confrontational.
Yeah, for me, I'm saying this as someone who like, this is, I think, what works better for me. That's why I'm saying this, but I do kind of, that's who it's coming out of. But I honestly, I don't necessarily know why therapy is more associated with this niceness, of, I feel like that's sort of the, like, because you need someone to like actually have compassion and listen. And those things, I guess what would you say? Like, is more of like a feminine trait, like a more like a, like a warmth, and that's really good. But the thing is that like, sometimes like I just started going to therapy. I just started seeing the therapist. I told her, I'm like, I want you to call me out. Like, I don't want you just to pacify me and listen and agree with everything I say. Like, I want you to set me straight. You know what I'm saying? If I'm doing something or say, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I honestly, I feel like I shouldn't have to say it. I shouldn't have to ask for that. But it's like, there are therapists that they'll just let you talk and like, they won't. And it's like at a certain point, yeah. I guess if you're paying for something and you're saying like, I'm paying you, I want you to just listen to me, then like, fine, it's a free country. You can pay for whatever you want. It's capitalism. But, I don't think that's really good for someone, right, necessarily in the long run. Anyway, so back to capitalism. We got sidetracked. So what interesting? Okay, so this interesting thought that I had 2 weeks ago. I think I just came back from Missouri, and I was going from New Jersey into New York, and there are these smokestacks in I think it's in like Elizabeth or Newark. It's like that area, like North Jersey, like right across the river. Yeah, that's kind of why I think people just have this vibe that New Jersey is disgusting, is because that's usually the first thing you see when you get into New Jersey. And it's a misrepresentation of the state. Like, there's a lot of beautiful places in New Jersey, but like, that's why
we'll agree to disagree.
Well, okay, yeah. But anyway, I'm not gonna get triggered by that.
Actually, I hate New Jersey just as a New Yorker. Okay, but whatever.
Okay, yeah. But so every time I go by that, it's like, this is gross. Like, you just see like tons of pollutants getting put into the air, and I'm like, this thing has been running nonstop since the last time I saw it, which in this instance might have been like 3 years ago because I was in Texas. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, and the next time I see it, it'll be like a month, and 24/7, it's just smoke, pollutants going into the air, and I'm like, this is. But then I thought, like, wait a second. I bet in some way, whether it's direct, probably indirect, there are a lot of things that I do and utilize that directly necessitate that smokestack to be releasing those pollutants, such as my phone, such as my internet, such as my car, right? Such as the clothes that, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. So the one thing I'll say is that regardless of what your opinions are about like what you would like to be, like, a lot of people I feel like complain about capitalism and kind of like we'll sort of echo some of the things you were saying before about the downsides, about how it, you have these people that just gain too much power and they do things that are just bad, like exactly. And there's no one to check on their power. Exactly. But it's like, okay, but like, everyone uses Amazon and everyone complains about the rich getting richer. Okay, so don't go to Amazon. Shop at your local bookstore or local bakery and say, you know what I mean?
But it becomes impossible, because as soon as somebody becomes good enough,
it's too convenient.
No, first of all, it's too convenient. But second of all, as soon as somebody becomes profitable enough to catch Amazon's attention, Amazon buys them out.
No, but there are, what do you mean? There are, like, for instance, there are local bookstores. You don't need to buy books on Amazon. Right. But I would say most people do, because it's convenient, it's the place that you buy stuff. Right. There's always going to be local bookstores. Right. There's not as many. Yeah, I hear you. Know what I mean? Yeah. Well, books are a lot of people do that. Right.
A lot of people do that.
Right, but like, my point is that I kind of just like, I sort of had like, when I saw that, I'm like,
hypocrisy.
Yeah, before you cry about how disgusting and awful this thing is, that people are making money and they're destroying the world. It's like, well, the things that make your life cushy, not you, but the things that make someone's life cushy in 2025, they don't come without downsides.
Would you say
we just
the
don't think
same
about
thing?
them?
I hear you honestly, and that's an interesting thought to chew on. But like, would you say the same thing about drugs? That people complain about drugs are horrible and the government should do something about fentanyl. Meanwhile, people use them and like even people that use them might complain about how horrible and harmful drugs are.
I haven't really experienced people that are use drugs and complain about how bad they are. Like
I have. I mean, I've spoken to people that were
that
addicts.
use drugs and
Complain about how terrible.
But
Even people that are addicted, a lot of them might agree that they're addicted and this is horrible and there's easy access to drugs. So it's like,
you're saying that they're upset that the government doesn't do something about it.
Right.
Okay.
Meaning, I think like in a way, this shouldn't necessarily be punished, but like in a way, Amazon is too convenient. Like we're not going to turn back the clock on Amazon. It's just like we want to see how it can be more accountable to its environmental impact and creating more justice for people that are working under Jeff Bezos that aren't necessarily making livable wages. You know what I mean? And it's just like, in many instances, people are forced into those kinds of jobs.
Why
they
are
don't
they
have
forced?
another option.
Why are they forced?
They don't have another option.
Why not?
You know what I mean? They don't necessarily have an education or their field is no longer...
Why can't they get an education?
This goes around to really what we're talking about of like, college is really expensive here in America.
Go to Queens College.
Queens College is also expensive, by the way.
Not compared to college.
Okay, but you know what? It's like thousands of dollars a semester. I think I was trying to...
$4,000 a semester now?
By the way, I agree with you. I think if you never went to college, you could go to Queens College for free. Basically, if you get financial aid, you could get financial aid through the government, like FAFSA, whatever. They have programs that you could go to Queens College for totally free. And I suggest everybody go to college, especially like if you can have access to a cheap community college / whatever.
No, but you can go to a 4-year college.
Yeah, you could go to a 4-year college.
And you don't need to go to Baylor or University of Texas,
Yes. Right, you could go to a 4-year college and do it for free, and I'd recommend people do that. But you have people that say for whatever reason I needed to go back to college, I wouldn't be qualified for a free degree because I already have a master's.
If you wanted to get a post-bac or bachelor's from Queens College, you can do it for probably less than $40,000. And not upfront, like over 3 years.
But that is a ton of freaking money. How are you supposed to pursue a degree full time plus work full time enough to support that?
You could pull it off if you needed to. That's a lot of money, but it's not too much that it's not doable.
Yeah, okay. If I needed to, I could. But is that like a fair expectation of saying like people are required to really work to the bone? You know what I mean?
Well, but you're talking about a specific scenario where someone is at a disadvantage because they couldn't go to college or they're older or whatever or they have other responsibilities. So there obviously are those people, but first of all, there's also people that have made poor choices. So it's like we can't just bail everyone out. Like 100%. Like poor choices will. Right. And that's not the government's responsibility to fix your... Now, there are people that didn't make poor choices 100%. And they have hard circumstances. That's obviously true. But to me, it doesn't make sense that college should just be free. Of course it's not going to be free.
I kind of disagree with you. I think it would be better if college was free. But I also just want to make one really important clarifying point. I do not care if Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk or whoever other billionaire, I don't care that they have as much money as they do. They should have the money. They should have more money, whatever it is. I'm more concerned that you have people that literally cannot make a livable wage working full time for some of these people, or even not just people in general in America that do not have enough, or people in the world that do not have enough money.
Why can't people make a livable wage?
It's an excellent question. First of all, I mean, these issues are a little bit more complicated.
You can't go to Home Depot and get a job, make $20 an hour. You can't do that.
Okay, but is working at Home Depot $20 an hour livable?
You don't need to live in Manhattan.
You don't need to live, bro. Have you seen apartments in Queens?
You don't need to live in Queens.
Where are you gonna live working in Home Depot?
You could live in Nebraska. You don't need to.
But I'm saying the Home Depot in Nebraska doesn't necessarily have.
I think
a $20
Home Depot is
hour.
like a thing where like they pay. That's like they pay higher.
So I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know really much about Nebraska or any of these other countries. I was just watching this other YouTuber, Drew Binsky. Have you heard of him?
Freaking Panda Express. You go into Panda Express on their door. You see they pay like they.
How do you know they even have Panda Express in Nebraska? I'm sure they do. I don't know, but I'm saying like, how do you know
Panda
that they're
Express
hiring?
in Fort Worth? I think on the store it says like starting is $17 an hour.
But I'm saying these. Okay, if we're talking about New York, let's talk about New York, right? It's $17 an hour working at Panda Express in New York, right? I think the minimum wage is 16 or 18 at this point. I'm not sure in New York. Okay. It's either 16 or 18 or somewhere in that range. In New York currently. That is not a livable wage for somebody.
But not everyone needs to live in New York.
So he has to move out of New York, this person.
To me, that is not unfair.
If they go to Nebraska, they maybe, I don't know the Nebraska minimum wage, but they might be getting $8 an hour. Is that enough to live in minimum wage in Nebraska?
but the thing is, they can work at the Home Depot in Nebraska.
Okay, but is the Home Depot in Nebraska even hiring? Is the Home Depot in Nebraska even willing to pay that much money?
I think Home Depot's everywhere pay $20 an hour. I should have looked that up, but
yeah, but also it's not necessarily fair that people that have been living here in New York for long periods of time or even not should not be able to have an opportunity to make a living where they are. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of ridiculous. You're telling somebody to like pack up their bags. I don't think
I agree. I think it's a decision to make of it's going to be harder to pull it off in New York City if you're not making a certain amount of money.
I think you could say you might have to sacrifice a lot of luxuries for a time while you work yourself up. You know, you're in college, maybe you're working too. You might have to sacrifice some luxuries. But I think what you're essentially saying is that in order to make it in New York, the only way to do it is with support. That's essentially what you're saying.
I feel like it's hard to live in New York City if you're not making six figures, and six figures is so much higher than the median salary in this country.
In New York too, yeah.
Right. And even in New York. To me, that is not like, that's not necessarily unfair. To me, it's like that's something that you react to. So if that's the case, if you don't make that much money, even me on a smaller scale, I wanted to live in Manhattan, and then I realized I don't think I could have pulled it off. It's too, and I make a pretty good salary. I don't think I could have pulled it off. It's too expensive.
Right.
So I can sit here and complain about, it's not. No, it is crazy, but like I don't think it. A lot of people like will sit back and complain about, it's not fair. These people are charging too much for rent. And it's like, okay, that's what it. No, I know they are, but it's like. It's like this guy that Mamdani, the guy that it's like his whole campaign is run on this thing that he's gonna make rent cheaper and have government run groceries.
I don't know how he's gonna do that.
Yeah, he's not gonna do it. It's all lies.
How is he supposed to make rent cheaper?
It's a great campaign to run on because people are like, this guy's gonna make rent cheaper, and rent is so expensive in New York. But how could you do that? You know? Right. So yeah, it does suck that rent is that expensive, but you don't have to live in Manhattan. You also don't have to live in Queens.
Dude, I'm not saying people have the right to live wherever they want. I just think that it's kind of crazy that in New York, you could be working 40 hours a week in a minimum wage job where you're an adult and that not be enough to survive. And like you're saying, people have to move. Like that's kind of screwed up. You know what I mean? And it's just like
you don't need to work. You don't need to work a minimum wage job long term.
Right.
Like to me, that's something you should do when you are in college or when you're
you're
prepping for your higher paying job.
Tell that to the immigrant that has run away from an oppressive regime to save their life, and they're trying to raise 3 kids in the only place that'll give them like sanctuary. I'm not talking about illegal immigrants.
Why do they have 3 kids?
This moment, but like. Whatever, they had 3 kids in their country that they're from, and now they're here. And now you're saying that, like, look, my parents did it. My parents came with 2 kids in Uzbekistan, from Uzbekistan, former USSR, once the Iron Curtain fell, and they came and they worked to the bone. They had degrees, happens to be coming in, you know, but still they were way underpaid for their qualifications, and they worked to the bone and they survived. That is not it's a shrinking reality. You know what I mean? Fine. I make more money than both my parents, and it's like, I will never be able to buy a house here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they were able to buy 2 and a condo in Florida. Yeah. And it's just like that is becoming a reality that is not possible.
I don't think it's realistic or fair to expect that minimum wage in any locale should be enough to completely support you. I don't think I don't think that should be the purpose of minimum wage.
That's fair to say, but I think even not a minimum wage, like you're describing, you make a solid salary, you have a good job, you're working long hours,
and I basically couldn't live.
And you could like if you wanted to have a kid, like you probably wouldn't be able to make enough money for that.
Probably not.
You know what I'm saying? Not in New York. That is insane. And I know for my family too, it's just like we're gonna have to move out unless like my wife is pursuing her master's, so it's like hopefully she'll finish that soon and she'll get like a better paying job, so it'll be like a stronger dual income. But it's like our days in New York are limited unless rent prices severely drop.
Yeah,
like we're not going to be able to make it here.
But by the way, that's why you have a lot of people now moving to Florida and Texas because they're kind of realizing that.
Dude, there's a crazy accident since COVID. I think New York City populations decreased something between 500,000 people to like 750,000 people, somewhere in that range. And that's crazy. Like since COVID, 750,000 people left New York City, and it's not the rich people that are running away. It's medium. But
I think if we lived long enough, I think you would see this kind of like bounce effect where like you would over time. I think you would see people like New York. You kind of see it with like Las Vegas now, where like Vegas realizes that they could take advantage of people because people are coming there to have fun and they're tourists and like they're willing to spend money. So like they start nickel and diming for everything, like for parking, and they tack on these stupid resort fees, and it's like just ways of making. Eventually, people are going to realize that Vegas sucks because of that, and they'll start going somewhere else. But then Vegas will be like, hey. So I feel like New York will be the same thing. Like they have congestion pricing, and people will be like, I'm going to move to Florida, not pay state income tax.
Dude,
and
that's so messed up. New York is my home. Like I am New York.
Or if this guy Mamdani wins, they're going to have this crazy tax. You can make more than $1 million a year. And people think like, oh, it's gonna be great because the government will have so much more revenue and
Dude,
will
the
tax the rich.
government's so
People are
freaking
just
corrupt.
gonna leave.
Yeah,
people are gonna leave. They're
people
not
are
gonna
gonna
be here anymore. Those millionaires are gonna leave the market.
I don't think so, because the millionaires are the ones that are staying, you know, and it's actually increasing. I think New York City has the highest concentration of millionaires.
I'm sure they do, but if things change that they were then taxed an extraordinary amount for making over $1 million a year, and they could have circumvented that by living in any other big city, I feel like people are going to move to another big city.
Nah, you can't get New York anywhere else. New York is the best. Listen, I love other places too, don't get me wrong, but it's like New York is
I know, but
like,
if you're talking about like $150,000 a year of taxes you're going to pay by living in New York, and you could do your job in Miami, you're going to move to Miami.
Maybe.
Not everyone.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, but I think people are in New York for a reason. Like, why don't these people leave already? New York is already crazy high taxes. Like, they could already go to
you're
Texas.
Right, because it's New York. Because it's New York.
Like, a little more of an increase in taxes isn't going to change things. Happens to be, look, I'm not even suggesting, because I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not suggesting tax the rich more. I'm not suggesting Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, how dare they become rich and like whatever. I'm happy for them. Sure, have money. But it's like, we literally are talking about it being so difficult for people to survive in this city and in America in general. And other cities, again, have it much better than New York, but especially New York, it's just like, dude, like, what the heck? Why is it impossible to have a family in New York City? Like, it's extremely, extremely difficult to be able to raise a family comfortably in New York City.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable. That's insane.
So if we bring this back to sort of like the original topic, so then like the question becomes like, is it fair that there are landlords in Manhattan charging exorbitant prices to live in their units? You know what I mean? And the opponent of capitalism would say, no, that's not fair. People can't afford that. It needs to be cheaper.
Right. I don't know what the solution is, but either people need to make a lot more money or rent needs to be a lot cheaper. And it's like, it has to be one of those things. I don't know the nitty gritty of like why rent prices are so expensive. But what's also crazy is that rent prices since 2020 have only increased. Meanwhile, the population's been decreasing. So that's also kind of curious. It's just like, how the heck is that happening? You know what I mean? Like, people are leaving and yet the rent prices keep going up. Like, how do you make sense of that?
And by the way, the comment I made before about like, why do they have kids? What I was getting at is that I like having kids to me is it's obviously it's a personal decision.
It's a right.
But it's
It's a human right.
It's a right?
It's a human right. Dude, it's a biological human right. You should absolutely.
Well, what do you mean?
You should be able to have kids.
Well, but it's also well, I guess it is a right because you can do it, but it is a responsibility.
Okay,
and
it is
it's
a
financial
responsibility for sure, and it's a financial responsibility. I don't think that you could have like a free society where in order to have kids, you would literally need to break the bank. You would literally need to work crazy amounts of hours where like you wouldn't even be able to see your kids. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is what I really consider unacceptable about like, especially New York. It's just crazy, dude. Like, I speak to so many people that have kids and they're like, yeah, we have to move. It's just like, that's crazy. That's insane. Dude, you know how much a 3-bedroom apartment in New York costs?
But you can move.
Yeah. Dude, but that's what I'm saying. New York is my home.
You can't move.
This is my home. I shouldn't have to move.
But there are issues with your home, and we can make another place more enticing.
If I had to, then I had to.
But I'm saying it's one thing if everything we were talking about is true, and then there also was a cage around New York that made you not be able to leave, then I would say, okay, something has to change.
Right,
here.
exactly, right.
If it was impossible, leave.
You don't see like a social issue with that being true. Like, it's not like I'm poor, I'm down on my luck. Like, I have what people would consider a good job with a master's degree. You know, like I'm making decent money at this point. Right, like wife would be in a similar position in like a year or two. Yeah, and it would literally still be impossible to have more than 2 kids in the city. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that messed up? You don't think that that's weird? Like, you would have to be like pretty, like you'd probably have to make $500,000.
I guess I would say, I guess it is weird, but to me, like, I feel like you're asking the wrong question. Like, yeah, maybe it's weird, but that's just the way it is, and you don't need, you know what I'm saying?
I disagree with you. That shouldn't be the way that it is.
What do you mean by shouldn't? What do you mean by shouldn't?
What I'm saying is that it doesn't make sense that in other states like Texas or North Carolina, you could have like a 3-bedroom apartment that is in a luxury building with a pool and a gym and everything is $3,000 a month. Yeah. And in New York, the same exact apartment's $8,000 plus. Yeah. You know, like, that does not make sense. In the cheapest areas, it would be $8,000 plus for slightly similar amenities. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that is bizarre. That does not make sense. It just is. It is insane.
But that is what it costs.
Look, in a way, I kind of agree with you in the sense that, like, it's always good to be pragmatic and be like, you know, if you're overthinking it, it is what it is. If we're talking about like ideals, like ideally, that is not an ideal situation. There's something seriously messed up with the system. That's what it's like.
You're right. It's not ideal. It's not utopian. But like the thing is, like, to me, here's the thing. I feel like some people, like, they want their end. Some people, some activists, or just some people's opinions, like the end goal of everything should be like everything should be fair. And I don't think that's a good goal to have. Like there are
I'll agree
certain
with you,
things
but
in life
can you
that
agree with
happen
me?
that are
Yeah.
not fair.
Yes.
And there are certain times that there are tragedies that happen that this is not related to what we're talking about just now, but like there are certain times that tragedies happen that it was no one's fault. And
Right.
some bad
Tragedies
things
do
just
happen,
happen.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to me, there's no way to make everything fair. It's like, it's not fair. Like there are some people that are like, I don't know, if you were 7 feet tall, you have a good chance of making it to the NBA. If you're in the NBA, you can make $10 million a year, even if you're not that good. And I'm not 7 feet tall, but I'm 6'2". A lot of people wish they could be 6'2", but it's like, it's not so, but that's, you know what I'm saying? There's no way you can't, that's, to me, it's not a good goal to have of making everything fair.
No, I agree with you, dude. That there was a short story in high school that we had to read that I always thought was BS about this kind of idea where like everybody had to wear a mask because like there are people that are beautiful and people that are not beautiful, and that's not fair.
Oh, what book is that?
I forgot the name. It's a short story.
Yeah.
But it's like a dystopian idea that like everything needs to be fair, because that's not really true. It's not really possible. Not everything needs to be fair per se, but it's like if we can correct for things that are dysfunctional or harmful, you know, we should. And it's like, dude, I'm not saying that college needs to be free because it would be fair if college is free. I think you can make a pretty solid economic argument for why free college is actually better, but like it's not that it's fair. It's just we would live in a better society, and if we could do it, we should do it.
Okay, but
you know what I mean?
but the thing, the drawback though, is that
Right.
you are, in the case of like rent or cost of living or even college, by enacting something like that as law, you are limiting other people's access to the market. Like now you're
How
saying,
so?
what do you say?
How so?
Because like now it's like if I'm an investor, if I'm looking at a property in New York, it's like you have ROI, you have like, hey, how much does it cost? What's going to be what's the interest rate? How much can I get in rent? You know, if you're telling me now I can't get this, you know what I'm saying? So this investment now is not viable for me, or it's not, you know what I'm saying? Or I can't charge what someone would be willing to pay. It's kind of like the whole thing with COVID with like price gouging. I kind of never got that. It's like, I don't really, again, this is something that with more education, I definitely could change my mind about.
Sure.
But I don't necessarily see the problem with price gouging. You know what I'm saying? You're not forcing someone to spend it. And honestly, I feel like with COVID, price gouging can kind of cause people to not overbuy things, like buy all the hand sanitizer and then not be any left for anything else if it's that expensive. But it's like, by saying you can't price gouge or making like very strict limits of like, hey, this is how much this is a lot of cost, you're limiting someone's access to the market that wants to sell this thing.
I hear you. I mean, it's an interesting point, and it's like I'm not an economist at the end of the day. I just think that like it would be better, and I'm not saying like apartments should be free or whatever. I just think that it would be better if you would have a society where people could live here with a good, honest day's work, be able to afford bread and rent, and not just bread, but like food and the ability to go out and have nice things and nice activities, like with a good, honest day's work. Like,
so I agree with you. That would be great. That would be nice. But
Right.
to me, the fact that that's not the case is not indicative of a problem that needs to be corrected. That's, I think, where we disagree.
okay, so meaning it might not be a problem that needs to be corrected, but it's like I believe in like achieving that. Meaning like just because somebody is not in an unhealthy physique, like maybe they're in a perfectly healthy physique, but it still might be nice to go to the gym because you'll look really good. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, meaning what I'm saying is fine. If you don't want to grant me that this is indicative of unhealth, can you at least agree with me that that would be better than this and that we should work towards that if possible?
No, because because the working towards that is necessarily going to put limits on other things.
Maybe I'd have to really like sit with that. There's this book called Abundance that I have not read, but I want to read, by Ezra Klein, that I've watched a couple of YouTubers that I respect quote this book, and it sounds very interesting to me. And he makes a lot of cases for this like progressive, more like progressive ideals and how the Democratic Party. The Ezra Klein is like a big Democrat, but like a big leftist, but like basically kind of criticizing the current form of the Democratic Party of just like they're not actually achieving anything or doing any good. And a lot of, from what I've heard other YouTubers describe, is like he makes this case for why certain policies, democratic policies, are actually hindering and making life more expensive unnecessarily. Like, for example, in order to build an apartment in New York or something, you may have to have certain qualifications met, and that just makes it impossible for a developer to make anything else except for an ultra luxury property, because they're going to have to make a return on whatever the investment is based on the state's or a city's limitations. Yeah. And so that's actually hurting fair housing, because it's like it's impossible for developers to develop fair housing if like there are all these constrictions. You know what I mean? I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. I haven't read the book either. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is actually a really bad idea. Like maybe we should let the free market kind of play its hand, and people of medium income will go to other states or whatever. I think that that's sad. I think that that's not the right way to go personally. But again, like I haven't looked into the issue deeply enough to like formulate a really solid argument for why. You know what I mean? I just think like if I grew up in the city, my parents were able to buy a house here, earning far less than I did. You know what I mean? And that's going to that's an impossibility for me, you know, in New York City here in Queens.
Yeah.
Which is, central Queens. But like that to me, I look at that and I'm like, that's insane. The economy is not going in a good direction because I feel like a capitalistic economy, when I think of capitalism, the kind that makes me proud to be an American, it's this kind of like the American dream where people can be middle class, where people can have a house and a family and afford nice things. We're not talking about like crazy luxuries and jets and stuff, but like if you live in an area where a car is possible, like you could have a decent car, you could have good food, nutritious food to feed you and your children and have a family. Like that's the American dream. That's what most people want. That dream is escaping. It's not becoming possible. At least not in New York, right? Like that. It's crazy to me. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying that maybe New York maybe in most places middle class is fine, but maybe in New York it's just not.
But it was. Like 30 years ago, you know what I mean?
But things change.
Things change. I find that sad. You don't agree with me, and it's.
I'm not
sure
I
why.
think I could agree with you that maybe it is sad, but like to me, it's like it's kind of just the way it is. Like I don't think anything really needs or even should be done.
Right.
If I could push a button and make it different, then great. But it's like
100%.
To me, the only way to change these things is by limiting other people's access to the market, and I don't necessarily think that's a good thing either.
I don't know. I mean, I think if the limit to the market is like limiting, I don't know, very rich people that could anyways go somewhere else in nicer areas, then I don't see a problem with that. But like
you have these rich people that they have a lot of money, they want to spend it on a beautiful house or apartment in Manhattan.
Go to Manhattan, fun. Why are you touching
Right,
Queens?
but I'm saying it's kind of like the thing you just said. Because of that, but because of that, you have now these big developers that they know they can get these big fish by making, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
but
like,
dude, I'll just tell you,
that's
I hear you, man.
economics.
I'll tell you something crazy. My father-in-law's house, he has a nice, decent house. Dude, in Kew Gardens, right? I don't remember. He bought the house anywhere between like $250,000 to $350,000. That same house right now is probably $2 million. And we're talking about like, this is like 30 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's like, that is crazy. How does that happen? Yeah. How is it like, dude, like this same man making his salary he does now would never be able to afford this house.
Yeah, I don't understand. Real estate has went up more than any other.
It's crazy.
I don't know why.
It's insane.
My grandparents live in, my grandfather passed away. My grandmother lives in Fairlawn for part of the year. She said that they bought their home for $20,000. Right. This was like, I think in the 60s or 70s.
Right.
It's a small house, but like, can you imagine you could buy a house $20,000?
That's insane.
And it's New Jersey.
Dude,
it's 20 minutes from the George Washington. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's crazy. Right.
Like I could just buy that with cash, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that idea is escaping New York for sure, and that's what I find very sad. And it's like when we talk about capitalism, I think I'm very pro capitalism in the sense of like defending your average person to be able to use their creativity and ingenuity to pursue something without the government or anybody else holding them back, to be able to create products, create services, and do that. That's still somewhat true. You could still do that, but it's becoming harder and it's escaping, and it's kind of sad. And it's like, I don't know that there's another system that would be better, but like the government is also bought by these people, quite frankly.
That's also true.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the government's not working for us at this point. I don't care which side of the party you're on. They have all the politicians in their pocket.
One thing I wanted to say, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, is a little funny to me. It's a funny story where I hate the lies. The lies is what really bothers me. So because there's this. I think that in general there's this guilt around money, around wealth, and I think it sounds icky when like people are very flagrant about how they want to make money.
Right.
So people kind of mask it. But companies do this. So I mean, I work for an insurance company. My company doesn't really advertise, but I hate when I see ads for insurance that are like, oh, we care about your mental health and we think you should go seek out. And it's like, bro, the only reason why your insurance company wants you to see your PCP once a year is because they know that if you do that, overall, you're going to be healthier and save them money. And with the whole mental health thing, to me, in general, it's a joke. You needed a law of mental health parity to make it required that they cover mental health. And even now, they basically cover it very poorly.
Right.
But the thing I want to say is that my PT office is just one like little thing I noticed that just always bother me. It's a stupid little thing, but they have this sign in the office that says, you need to, if you can't show up, you need to cancel your appointment 24 hours in advance to avoid a fee.
Right.
And it says the reason why is because we want you to cancel the appointment in advance if you can't show up, so that we can give that appointment to someone else. And
Yes,
by not
100%.
canceling it,
Right.
you're not allowing us to help someone else who needs the care.
Right.
And I read that sign. Now, this is pretty benign. As far as lies go, this is benign. It's not really,
Sure.
but I'm like, that is a lie. That is 100% false.
I'm going to defend these people, but yeah.
Okay, so one second.
Go ahead.
I go to this office. The therapist usually spends like 20 minutes with me, and then like she'll kind of like oversee what I do. But basically the whole time I'm with the aide. Like I'm not really with the therapist. There is like 6 people that have a session with the same therapist at the same time, and I don't think there's a limit to that. It's definitely not one.
Really?
Okay.
6 people seeing the same therapist? At the
Meaning
same
like she'll only spend like 10 to 20 minutes with me, and then like
and
she'll pass me off to the aide, and then she'll see someone else for 10, 20 minutes, and she'll kind of like maybe take a look at me or like, or if I have a question, but they schedule a lot more than one person for the therapist for the hour. Now, to me, that is a lie. The reason why the reason why they don't like no-shows, it's also about no-shows. The reason why they don't like no-shows and why they want you to cancel in advance is because if you make an appointment and you do not show up, they cannot bill your insurance.
Right.
It hurts them if you make an appointment. And now again, this is more of like me just being a little bit annoying.
Okay.
I would love this. If I saw this, it would look like such a stupid sign, but it would make me so happy. If I saw a sign that said, you cannot be a no-show and you need to cancel your appointment 24 hours in advance to avoid a fee, because if you don't show up, we cannot bill your insurance, and that hurts our finances and our revenue.
Okay,
and we don't like that.
Right.
To me, that sounds icky, but it's honest. And I love honesty.
Yeah, at least it's honest.
So again, this is benign, but it's just the lies. I just hate the lies.
Small defense though is that like I would say the same thing to my clients, right? Like if you're a no-show, like I charge a fee. Part of that is that I'm pretty booked, right? Very likely there would have been a chance that if this person didn't have the session, somebody else probably would have booked it.
Okay.
And by them not showing up, I can't bill the insurance. And somebody else didn't book it also. I lost money.
Yeah.
That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I have to charge you a no-show. You
course.
cost me money.
You're trying to run a business, trying to make a living. Of course.
Right. Yeah.
Of course. I'm totally behind that.
Right,
it's just like,
it's just the honesty.
Yeah, don't sound like being
that,
altruistic.
Yeah.
First of all, I guarantee you, especially with this, now I'm getting a little really fired up. I guarantee you, with this PT office, I know for sure. I think overall they're pretty good. I know for sure there's no way that someone else wanted that appointment and like, I'm sorry, we already, there's no,
they would have
no way that
anyways.
happens.
Yeah.
But they want to, if you're a patient, they want to bill your insurance.
Got you. That's brilliant. Okay, by the way, can I just say a different point about capitalism?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, the economic argument for why free college would be better for a capitalistic environment is just because how many people do you think there are that would make excellent doctors, for example, right? And the only reason that they were not a doctor is because they couldn't afford medical school. And now instead of them making $500,000 a year as a doctor, bringing in tax revenue of somebody that's in that bracket, right? Plus all the training that they would do, all the incredible things that they would do as a doctor. Instead of doing that, they're stuck working something much less, making much less money.
Okay.
Maybe not even going to school at all because they can't afford school.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's just like if you provide free school and where people can actually pursue what they're interested in and passionate about, they will be much more productive and earn a lot more money.
Who's staffing the school?
What do you mean? Who's staffing the school?
On what grounds is the school going to be in? That's free.
I'm saying if the state paid for everyone's college tuition,
right, but
there's an argument.
The point is that has to come out of the budget of something else. They have to come up with that money somehow.
Oh, you're saying where's the money going to come from?
Yeah. By the way,
I'm not arguing where the money's going to come from.
Yeah.
That's a separate question. But can you agree that there is a solid economic argument that it might be worth it for the state to take on?
I hear your point, but I can't agree that it's a solid economic argument unless I see the dollars and cents. If like you show me that like there is ROI for that, like in the sense like the government will like make
it would
more.
Have to be done somewhere else.
Yeah,
I'm curious if European states do
and
that.
And now, especially now in New York City, now that they have these 3 casino licenses up for bid, and now you have sports betting. It's like it's not really just for the free market. I mean, I think it's good for the free market too, but it's also like they know how much money they can make in tax revenue from gambling, so it's kind of like either we can raise taxes or we can bring in these casinos, and we don't need to raise taxes because we know we're going to make $1 billion a year.
They're going to raise taxes anyways. This is what bothers me so much about congestion pricing, by the way. I'll say this one thing. They promise that they're going to fix the MTA and do congestion pricing. Have you seen any MTA upgrades since congestion pricing?
Well, I mean, I guess I haven't been here the whole time, but I mean...
No, there has not been a single MTA revenue. There's not been anything that's been done.
No,
it's all a bunch of lies.
No, but you don't know. How do you know?
It's corruption.
How do you know?
Okay, bro, show me the MTA upgrades that have been done. How much money? Should we Google it right now?
Queens Plaza, the E-Train, I don't know. They're doing construction and the thing.
His
How do you
BS,
know?
man.
Maybe they wouldn't have done
It's
that without
B-
congestion. Look,
dude,
I hate congestion pricing also,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
wouldn't go that far as say they're not doing anything with the money.
I just don't believe that they're doing anything with the money, or I believe if they're doing something with the money, it's not the entire fund. It's not even 80% of the fund. It's probably not even 50% of the fund. I don't know what they're doing with that money per se. It is lining somebody's pockets. I don't know. I'm very cynical about it. I'm very cynical, as you could tell.
So I'm cynical like you in the sense that I don't believe anything. Like
100%. I don't trust the government.
All this
I
is
don't trust-
lies.
yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm sure they're probably not spending all the money in the MTA, but I'm sure they're spending some. But yeah, no, I don't believe because this is why politics is stupid, because any politician, they know that they need to win the court of public opinion. They need to win votes. So it's
exactly.
If you tell the truth, if you always tell the truth, this is why also the presidential debates, they're so stupid, because no one's gonna ever admit that no one's working together. No one's ever gonna admit, oh, you got me. It's a good point. I didn't think
Dude,
know what I'm
where's
saying?
the honesty, the realness? Yeah, the realness, the honesty.
I just what I used to think with Biden and Trump, and it's like, can you imagine this will never happen? But can you imagine look, whatever you think about Biden and Trump, Kamala, they're all pretty smart people. Now Biden is older, so I feel like his brain's kind of going, but I don't know, he achieved a lot in public, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be I don't think you could really be a dummy and do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had a successful career. Can you imagine if these people put their heads together and actually work together to create solutions to things?
Such a good point.
The world would be unbelievable.
Yeah, it would be a much better place if people actually decided to collaborate.
Instead, you watch TV during the elections, and it's like the hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on these mudslinging ads, and it's like, I get it, you want to win, but this sucks. Can you imagine if this money was spent for good?
100%, dude. I love what you're saying
Millions
right
of
now.
dollars.
Okay, so I was watching every once in a while. I as much as I hate politics, and I always say I'm apolitical, I constantly find myself watching random stupid political conversations and debates and stuff. So I was listening to this one Tucker Carlson interviewing some other Republican. And I'm not even Republican, but I enjoy listening to these things. It's funny how I have to preface it by saying I'm not even Republican, because I'm genuinely afraid that a client or a potential client is going to listen to this and be like, oh, Gabi's like a Republican. But I'm definitely not. But basically in this conversation, I don't remember, it was like I'm forgetting the guy's name. His face is in my mind, but he's like a big Republican. Like, he's been a speaker for Republicans for a very long time. And he was saying how, and I found this so funny, he was saying how all the Democrats that are, going crazy about Trump being president should realize that we live in a we live in a constitutional republic or something like that, and the people have voted. A representational democracy. I think that was the term he used. And the people have voted for Trump, and so we should let Trump basically do whatever he wants because that's what the people voted for. That was essentially his argument.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And they should back off. And I'm like, dude, I happen to have never listened to this guy before, but I would imagine that he was a huge proponent of the Tea Party. Are you familiar with the Tea Party?
The Boston Tea Party?
No. Basically, when Barack Obama became president, the Republicans formed this thing called the Tea Party, where they would not talk to Obama, they would not negotiate with Obama, they would not listen to him, and they basically decided whatever Obama does, we're just going to oppose it.
I didn't.
They were called the Tea Party. I'm like, dude, this guy was probably the biggest proponent of the Tea Party. I could just imagine just hearing his voice. And it happens to be, I don't know, I'm kind of assuming this, but I'm just you are such a bad liar. You know what I mean? Like when Obama was running, you were for sure hating him. There was no way you were to your Republican listeners, guys, the American people have spoken. Obama has won. We should let Obama do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I know exactly.
You know what I'm saying? What a fake, just no backbone at all. And again, as I say this too, I sometimes think about myself, if I'm gonna be the same way, if I ever run for politics, or in a few years, if I'm gonna say something that might sound stupid. But it's you're so right in the sense that politics, it's very two-faced, and it's very and political speakers in general, whether Republican or Democratic, it's very just
both of them, both sides. Both lie.
They both lie. There's not a spirit of collaboration. There is not that I like listening to Jon Stewart also and a lot of Democratic voices. I never hear them say oh, we should really reach out to Trump and propose these things because we want a better America. We want it to be better and fair for all. Can we come to a negotiating table? Can we come to some sort of understanding? And actually, let's put our heads together. Trump team won. Obviously, Trump is speaking to a lot of Americans in a way that is resonating with them. Let's understand what that is. Let's actually create a better world together. If we put our heads together, like we can actually be productive within this next 4 years. And after that, and whoever the president is, whatever side of the party he's on, we could actually make progress for a better America. Instead, you get like, oh, this party won, everyone's hating. That party won, everyone's hating. You're so right. And I haven't thought about that so deeply. Like it would be a much better world.
I don't think it was like, I mean, I didn't really know anything about politics when I was a kid, but when we were younger, I don't think it was like this. I remember when Obama won, like I remember, I knew nothing about Obama, but I remember I was just like brainwashed. It was just like the group thing of like, oh, we don't like Obama bad, Bush good. Like it's like, okay, but I don't think it was like this.
Bro. I think in some ways it was worse. And in some ways that actually gave birth to what we have today. And I'll explain a little bit. In some ways it was worse. Like I remember hearing some people say, this is the craziest thing, they're like, oh, Obama's an actual demon. Like he's actually like the devil in like a form. Like, yeah, he's actually a radical. Like he's an Islamist extremist. Yeah. I've heard people say that. And it's so bizarre. And it's so crazy that people actually said that. But the thing is that when Obama became president, that was literally, I think, right around the time the smartphone came out. It might have been just after the smartphone came out. And the internet was not really as, like the internet was big. People were using the internet, but you didn't have, I don't even know when Facebook came out, but like it was very small if it was already out at that point. Like it wasn't even like a thing. YouTube was like just coming out, right? Like all these things. And that people basically found like, oh wow, like hating on Obama, that's an interesting topic. And then it, like the political divide just grew more and more as like we have algorithms that feed our echo chamber and just entrench us in it and take us deeper and deeper. So it's like that was really the start of it. And
sometimes I think this is like, now we're off topic, but this is good. Totally off topic. Sometimes I think like kind of like the ice age cycle, where you have this thing in you know, where like you have an ice age and then like, you know, it's like life will start over again, but then like you'll have climate, you know, like I don't really know the science about it, but I remember learning. Sometimes I kind of think that kind of thing will happen with technology, or you know what I mean? Where like eventually technology will become so powerful and we'll realize how bad it is. Like how, when I say bad, meaning like how it can be used for bad, but even if it's just the access to it and the way it's everywhere, the way we use it for everything 100%. Is bad for us, and the way it's used is bad. Yeah, and there'll be like a total correction, either by force or by choice, back to like total primitiveness of because we realize that way of life is better. Exactly. But then slowly it'll be like, oh, but what if, you know, what if that, like what if, oh, but we have this is a wagon, easier way to get, you know what I'm saying, and then a car, and it's like, you know, like where do you stop? But it's like, but come on, but like kind of like what you just said of like of the smartphone coming out around that time, like how can you like, obviously we're not citing any studies right now, but like, bro, like people are so much more anxious and depressed because of social media. Like how can you disagree with that?
I kind of disagree with that. I think I don't know. I think you're right. The overuse of
it's used for good media. Also, but it does a lot of bad also.
It does bad too, yeah, dude. But that point that you're mentioning, I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago on the podcast of like of how is it possible that humanity is 200,000 years old, about like our species is about 200,000 years, and yet technology only exists now. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about anatomically modern humans, the same as us, right? That have existed 150,000 years ago, let's say. In the past 15,000 years, humanity went from hunter-gatherers to Manhattan, you know what I mean? Like, and podcasts, recorded podcasts. Like, that's really insane. We're talking about a small chunk of that. How did it take so long? I think
maybe like growth is kind of exponential. Like the first, I mean, I don't really know this stuff, but I would imagine for the first many thousands of years probably took for us to learn how to communicate. You know what I mean?
No, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I would think that like early, like mammals know how to communicate too. There's intrinsic communication that we have.
Even, I mean, I don't know this, but I feel like mammals' communication is. Like when I was younger, I thought, like they have their own language. I guess they have their own language, but
they have kind of a language.
It's much more. There's no way it's as sophisticated as us. There's no way they can express the same things that we can.
Definitely not. Like I don't think that they can express deep philosophical concepts and talk about
or emotions or.
They have emotions for sure. They might be able to express emotions. What? Yeah, I think animals could express emotions. Like you don't think a dog understands when another dog is sad?
Well, I think a dog maybe a dog definitely could express that it is sad, but like
and another dog could pick up on it.
But like but I don't know if a dog, like well maybe a human can, but I don't know if a dog could pick up the difference in two dogs' sadness of like this dog is sad. It's more of like a dull sadness. This one, like you know what I'm saying? Like humans, there's a lot of different ways humans can be sad.
I definitely will agree with you that humans are more complex. Yeah, and. It's also difficult because we don't necessarily fully understand the experience of other creatures, so it's hard.
I'm talking about communication.
Communication-wise, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if some animals could pick up different nuances of sadness, of like, oh, this one's sad because it just lost a child, or that one's sad because somebody stole his
well, right,
bananas.
but again, I'm not talking about their intelligence. I'm just talking about their level of communication. So I'm saying, I don't. If humans have been around, you said 200,000 years.
200,000
so maybe
years,
it took 20,000 years to just learn how to even like basic communication. Well, again, not basic, but maybe more sophisticated. Maybe it took like 20, 30,000 years. Like,
Possibly.
Language is very complex.
Yeah, it is. But there is also like a theory. You know Graham Hancock?
No.
I love Graham Hancock. I'm not necessarily saying that like I subscribe to his theory of what I'm about to explain, but he is a fantastic writer and storyteller. One of my favorite. I listen to his audiobooks. He has like audiobooks that are like, I don't know, like 30, 40 hours long. I just love listening to him speak. He has like a great English accent, and he is so good with words, and like the way he describes these ancient sites that he goes to visit, and like the whole rituals behind it and everything. It's just mesmerizing. I just totally love everything he's saying. But basically, he has this theory that there was an ancient shamanic advanced civilization that existed before the Younger Dryas, which was the Ice Age. That like there was definitely some type of technology that existed. And look, obviously they knew something that we don't. Even if you want to say that like these megalithic structures like the pyramids and such, even if you want to say they were created by the civilizations, which I probably think is true because I have no reason to believe otherwise. Meaning if you want to say that the pyramids, for example, were created something like 5,000 years ago, we don't even know how they did that. So obviously they had some type of technology that was lost, right? And then he basically believes, though, that there was probably some type of more advanced civilization, that once the Younger Dryas happened, the water levels changed, and so a lot of the shore land is now underwater, and so a lot of the evidence for them is lost. So he's spent his life research basically trying to find / prove this lost civilization. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I think it's very compelling.
Well, your point still stands of like humanity has never been this advanced or even close to this, unless you believe in Atlantis, like, or like some place that we can't see.
Right.
That almost sounds like what that's like, like a hidden city somewhere.
It's bizarre. I mean, the more you think about life and the more you think about how complex you are, it's almost just like there has to be aliens out there somewhere. I mean, we have to be in some type of matrix.
Honestly, even like from a math perspective, I kind of think that, but like maybe not everything is math. Maybe there's purpose. Maybe there's a reason.
Maybe there is purpose and reason, and yeah, I mean, maybe that's just like you're in a simulation or something. But that just kicks the question farther along. It's just like, well, okay, whatever. If you're in a simulation, then where did the simulation come from? What about there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just kicks the can down. Whatever. Anyways, we're kind of getting very far off from capitalism.
Well, I'm gonna need a towel off after this because it's kind of got my heart rate up. But do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. I believe in capitalism and free markets. I believe that there needs to be monitoring of big corporations to make sure that they're not overstepping and squashing down the little guy, which I feel unfortunately is happening, and it's becoming harder and harder to make the American dream happen in America. And that to me is sad because I'm a proud American. I love America and I love New York. And it just becomes sad to me to think that like this might not be my home, not because of anything I did wrong, but just because it's becoming impossible to earn like a reasonable salary where you can make a living. And that's crazy to me. I think the government should do something. And I personally think that maybe like it won't happen until I become mayor. And even then, I don't know anything about politics. So the big people will probably eat me up anyways. So it's like, you probably can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. It sucks. I hope whoever becomes mayor can actually do something about it. I don't know. That's my closing thoughts on capitalism. Okay. Love it. Probably needs adjustment.
Yeah, I'll just say like I think there is a certain balance that needs to be struck between idealism and being like this is the way things should be, and like the way things should be changed to be. Between that and okay, these are the rules. This is the way it is. How can I use it to my advantage? Like I'm not saying no effort should be spent on how things can be better. Right. But I feel like if in general people spent a little more effort on like, okay, what can I do given that things are the way they are to better my situation? Yes. Like there's a lot.
So I agree with you actually, because I think like ultimately you have to do what's in your locus of control. You can't just sit there and complain. You know, what does that mean? Like you can't do that. You have to do something. And you're right. You have to be pragmatic. You have to be practical. But it's like at the same time, I just feel like, I don't know. Yeah, I've said my point. You've said your point.
Okay, well, that's all our time. Thanks, Gabi. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Disruptive, and we will talk to you again next week. Bye.
See you.